Stranger Things 2. What happened? Welcome back to J. Penny Reviews. Here, there is no correct opinion, except, of course, my own. But even so, I'd still love to hear yours in the comments down below. What do you think of Stranger Things 2, or Stranger Things as a whole? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Did you even watch it? Stranger Things 2 is a really weird one for me. On the one hand, this is a solid season of television, and you absolutely feel the extra budget being put to good use. Gone are the days of seeing a Demogorgon for a split second and then immediately cutting away. Now we get complete, concentrated shots on the multiple different creatures from the Upside Down. The characters are still just as charming as they were before. It's great that Will actually has stuff to do this season instead of being a largely off-screen plot device. And this season introduces a plethora of new characters, many of whom are welcome mainstays from here on out. Max, Murray, and Erica being my personal favorites, but Billy, Dr. Owens, and Bob are all very fun to see, largely thanks to just how well they're played by their respective actors. And the big thing this season does wonderfully with the characters is who all is paired up with each other. Lucas, Dustin, and Max was probably the most fun part of the season, even if it's one of the more shallow as far as actual plot is concerned. Hopper and Eleven was a strange pairing I wasn't expecting going into the season, but I think it's a net positive on the show, even if it led to the weakest plotline in the entire series. And Mike and Will were okay. Mike was being an ass for the majority of the first half of the season, and it's understandable for his character, but it's still not very fun to watch him be an unrelenting little shit to a literal new girl in school because Dustin and Lucas are trying to be friends with her. But I would be a fool not to mention the grand beginnings of this truly legendary pairing, Dustin and goddamn Steve Harrington. In season 1, Steve was easily my least favorite character. He was a douche whose big moment was deciding to actually help someone, and that was the whole point of his character. But this season turned Steve into my favorite character. The fact that early on he was being the voice of reason was super interesting, since last season he was ignoring conflicts to selfishly protect himself. But now he's actively just trying to keep Nancy sane. He has to constantly remind her of just how fucked the situation they're in actually is, and you kind of see the last few pieces of his character arc fall into place as his role as the big man on campus gets replaced by Billy. He has now been humbled, lost his girlfriend, and his place in life, and that leads him to deciding to look after Dustin and his friends when he learns that creatures from the Upside Down are out and about. And the chemistry between Joe and Gaten is unbelievable. Now you're probably wondering why this season is deemed by all the weakest of the bunch, and I was too. But there are 3 big problems with the season as a whole. The main antagonist of this season is the Mind Flayer. He's a smoke monster who typically takes the form of a sort of but not really kaiju shadow spider. And his goal is to invade the real world by using vines from the Upside Down to burrow beneath Hawkins, killing all the plants, while his army of Demogorgon dogs kill all the people. And he acts this out by taking possession of Will. And the big issue with this villain is that he has 0 personality. This is something you don't really notice in other projects because it's something you notice subconsciously, but the main antagonist's ability to interact with the protagonist is a massive part of how us, the audience, fall in love with the antagonist. Thanos and Joker are S-tier villains, but seeing how they interact with the protagonist is what sells us on them as characters. Seeing how their ideas and beliefs clash with the heroes is so important, and the Mind Flayer offers none of this. He behaves more like a force of nature, but he has wants and desires that are pure evil. It's a stark difference from the previous season, where it was the government cover-up, compared to this season, which is an interdimensional god who enjoys killing. The next big problem is the lack of plot for the entire cast. One of my biggest praises for the writing of season 1 was how the writers brilliantly wove different storylines together. Each of the 3 plotlines were essential to how the episodes and season played out. And here we kind of have that, but it's a lot more sloppy. The kids are discovering the Demodogs, while Hopper is discovering the tunnels beneath Hawkins. And those 2 work quite well together. But then there's Nancy's plot. Nancy has always been one of my absolute favorites, but this season she has nothing to do that actually affects the plot. She and Jonathan are trying to expose Hawkins' lab to avenge Barbara. So they go to Murray with proof of season 1, and after they find a way to publish the information safely and effectively, they return to the main cast for the final episodes. You could literally cut all their scenes, and it wouldn't change the story at all. And while we're on the subject of poor writing, let's get into what truly makes season 2 so bizarre. Episode 7. So in episode 7, Elle goes on a side quest to meet her mother and then meets up with 8. This is an older child that also escaped Hawkins' lab. So 11 and 8 go to murder a man because he worked for Brenner, and then Elle gets cold feet and spares him. Deciding that she wants to go be with her friends, she leaves 8 to go be part of the story again. I swear it's so insane how non-relevant this episode is. It's like the Duffers were told, yeah, you'll get a season 2. They wrote season 2 and then Netflix said, hey, we accidentally said you'd do 9 episodes instead of 8, so is there any way you can squeeze in 1 extra episode? And then they wrote this BS in an afternoon. The acting in the episode was not very good. None of the characters have come back, and it's kind of boring. Like, they take away everything that we enjoyed about the show. And it's like they were just trying to make a pilot episode for another spin-off series in case people liked it, but they didn't really know what they wanted to do with the series. This is actually the only episode of the entire show I dare call bad, and it makes me groan every time I rewatch season 2. Guys, if you've made it this far into the video, please be sure to hit the like button. Also, please subscribe. Stranger Things 2 certainly has many things to praise, but it also has much more to criticize than any stellar season of TV should. I personally think it's the weakest season of the show, but this really is the end of the show as we know it. So far we've had 2 seasons with similar vibes, and I'm very curious as to what I'll think of season 3, because they completely threw out the slow burn mystery for a more fast-paced story. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, I've got one where I talk about season 1. Please check it out. I'll be back next week talking about season 3, and then the following week with a video on season 4. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.